Hey, welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. I'm your host, Sal Interdonato. The Black Knight Nation podcast is brought to you by Higher Echelon. We thank Higher Echelon once again for sponsoring this podcast. And I'm here with Seth Mendelson and Brendan in Jersey. And we're going to recap Army's 44-10 win over UAB. And we're going to break down Army also qualifying for a bowl game on October 12th. It is today, right? Yeah, so Army makes it to a bowl game. Get the thoughts of Seth and Brendan and myself, and we'll look into the future a little bit too. So first off, check out, I just posted Seth Mendelson's game story on our website. I'm going to write a little bit of a sidebar column on Bryson Daly coming up within the next 24 hours. Ed Diller took some really good photos. I'm going to be posting all over our social media, so check those out. And first things first, I'm on the sidelines today before the game. And I actually saw him before the game. Darrell Williams, former superintendent Darrell Williams, was at the game. And I saw him. They had Black Knights Alley on the practice field now. And I saw him, Coach Munkin, get off the bus, shake hands with Darrell Williams. And then seeing Darrell Williams in the pregame, man, it was good to see former Army football player. Good to see the former Soup, too, at the game. And he was in the locker room, too, with the team after the game. So still very involved in the program. He's the commanding general for Europe, U.S. Army in Europe and Africa, I believe. So that's a pretty high position in the Army. Yeah. And he had a couple minutes for the Black Knights today. So that was good to see. First off, let's get quick thoughts, opening thoughts. Let's go to Seth Mendelson with his opening thought of this 44-10 rout of UAB.
Well, I mean, it's simple. Army demolished a team that wasn't that good. They've had a tough season, except for one game against Arkansas. They lost by about 10, and they won a game against an FCS team. Army's just running on all engines right now. Their offense is great. The offensive line is playing great. Bryson Daly had 4 rushing touchdowns, 1 passing touchdown to Casey Reynolds, who's having a great season as well. And of course, what can you say about Kanye Udo and Noah Short? The guys are just having a sensational season. Defensively, same thing. They gave up 10 points, a late touchdown with the third team in there. They made the plays they had to make at the right time, and they held them off the scoreboard. 3 points, a field goal in the first quarter, and then nothing till 5 minutes left in the game. And the other thing is the special teams. Punting they don't punt much, but when they do, it seems good. They don't kick field goals too much. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Sal, we only had 2 field goal attempts, and they both were good, one today and one the first game, because they don't need to kick field goals. They're scoring touchdowns. So right now, through 6 games, Army is bowl eligible. The team's playing great. The only thing I'll say, and Coach Munkin made reference of it today in the press conference, is the toughest part of the season lays ahead. And that's going to be, and it starts with East Carolina. They're not a bad team. I think Army will be favored by 7-10, but East Carolina is not a bad team. And then we go into a break, and then Air Force, which is getting demolished by New Mexico. And then, of course, we have North Texas on the road, Notre Dame at Yankee Stadium, UTSA, the championship game if they make it in the AAC, and, of course, Navy, a non-league game, which
Seth, I thought we were going to break this down later on. I thought we were going to break this down.
I'm sorry. I'm just telling you what I see happening. You're right.
Here's what I'll say real quick, Seth, real quick. I'm glad you're not a Las Vegas odds maker. Because I think Army's going to be favored by at least 2 touchdowns against East Carolina at the very least in that game. I know East Carolina's 3-3. We'll get to that later. Brendan, open it, your first thoughts on the game. You were you went to the game today, Brendan.
Yeah. I just like many Army fans have just been enjoying this start to the season, and wanted to check the team out today, specifically to see how they responded to their first opportunity to check off a box for the season, and that being bowl eligibility in the smallest amount of games possible, which is a marked change from the past couple seasons where everybody's hemming and hawing and wondering if we're going to get some kind of waiver that never comes through. No, they took care of all that business today. which was nice to see at the end of the game. They put up a graphic of bowl bound. So we'll see. I mean, we know now we know they'll be playing at least one more game this season. Probably two. If unless there's like a major disaster at some point. But yeah, I mean the team impresses in person. They are just an overwhelming force against lower opposition, which is frankly what they've played to this point in the season. But they've been taking care of business in a way that it's basically like this year and 1996, and then you got to go back to Blake for this dominant a start to the season. But also, speaking of special teams, when everybody stood up for the national anthem, and I was in my seat, and I noticed Trey Granati's parents in the stands wearing shirts with his number and name. Yeah. And I thought to myself, I wonder if he's going to get a shot at a field goal today in front of mom and dad, which ultimately did happen.
They're there every game. They're there every game, dude.
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the game, you had the third string offense in. Mission accomplished. Another W, and we'll see how the polls shake out this week. My gut is that there's just hasn't been enough chaos in the bottom half of the poll for Army to have an entrance point this week, but could be a surprise. Come Monday, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. First off, I want to give a shout out to Trey Granati. I had a chance to interview him one-on-one in a Zoom a few weeks ago, and the last two times I've been at Mikey Stadium on Wins, where I'm on the field after the game, he's passed me and asked me, "Hey Sal, how you doing? What's up?" And I'm like, "Trey, doing fine. You guys are doing good. Congratulations!" So a shout out to Trey Granati, really good dude, and glad he's getting a chance to kick for Army this year. My opening thought is, something that Caleb Fortner said sticks with me a little bit in the press conference. He said that maybe when UAB started the game, right, they have that 4th and 2. I think it's at their own 34 or whatever, 33. He said the defense felt a little bit disrespected that the UAB decided to go for it, and, the Army stuff. I rewatched that play a couple times when I got back home, and, Elo Mendoza did a great job of crashing inside, and Fortner and Andon Thomas were able to stop the running back before the first down. And that certainly set the tone. And then next play, you get the jumping off sides by UAB. And then Bryson Daly, that stiff arm has gone viral on social media. I mean, it's over 1 million views on one post. It's like 500K on a couple others. I mean, that's a Heisman moment for Bryson Daly. And, I think that I just watched halftime show for ESPN, and Kevin Nagandi's calling Bryson Daly his boy. My man Bryson Daly with the touchdown run. It's on Army's being on highlights, and they're not a top 25 team yet. They will be by next Sunday, certainly, with a win over East Carolina. But man, I think those two plays set the tone for the day, right? The defense shows up on 4th down. Bryson Daly stiff arm first play, 29 yards, 4 touchdowns for Bryson Daly on 12 carries. 130 yards, 2.5 quarters, because that first drive in the third quarter did take about half of the third quarter, which was good for us who were, seeing another pretty much whitewash blowout, So, I mean, you look at Bryson Daly's stats today, and maybe they don't completely spit out the words Heisman, but it was a great performance, another great performance by Bryson. And I don't know. I mean, running out of words on him. And to be honest with you, I'm getting a little bored of these games. I'm getting a little getting a little bit bored of these blowouts. I mean, it's just like hope next week maybe a game's in the fourth quarter. It's impressive what Army's been. They're dominating this competition. It's inferior competition. It's the bottom of the AAC. We talked about this, but man, I want to see some. I want to see some fourth quarter. A fourth quarter warriors, so to speak. We haven't had any fourth quarter warriors this year, really. I don't think. Have we, Brendan?
No, I mean Lehigh might have been the closest game going into the second half. If I think about it,
that's been my feeling all season. Is that I mean, even though Lehigh on the ultimate score line, it's not reflected, but I feel like Lehigh gave them like the tightest game they've had all season. Although UAB, it got a little concerning because their offense switched to like a full hurry up. And they were able to move the ball down the field on Army pretty well. But then, that red zone goal line defense, it was really nice to see Army's defense. I mean, like, not that they've not been putting in the work this season, but it was nice to see them situationally get a goal line stand. Because, all this experience and all these reps add up. And, the more situations you can run into in a live game, the better for the team.
Brandon, I think the series you were talking about was the series where UAB lined up their right tackle and right guard all the way out on the offensive line, and I think that confused me in the press box, but I think it confused the Army players a little bit, and a couple guys got open. In the slot there, and they were able to drive down. And I think that was I think you said that was the way they stopped them on the fourth down, right? Was that series?
Yeah,
I think so.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, and I get the same thing. Sal, to your point, I get the same thing when I heard him say it was a little bit of a disrespect to the Army defense. Well, UAB has tried it 15 times this year, fourth down conversion attempts. And I think it goes back to the same thing that the Temple coach was quoted as saying in the press, and so was the Tulsa coach, is we don't get that many chances to get against Army, so we got to do everything we can to keep the ball. And I think that's
yes and no.
That shows a lot of respect to the whole team.
Yes and no. I think that's a little bit coach speak because Army's been scoring sometimes so quickly that the other team's getting the ball anyway. In the past, yes, this version of Army, 50-50. They're going on their long drives, but then they're going on their one-play touchdown drives too. So, I mean, that's a coach speak. That's a coach speak answer, in my opinion. That's just me.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes common sense makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't make sense, in my opinion, when it comes to that. I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, defense definitely come to play. Casey Larkin gets a couple interceptions. I was able to interview Casey Larkin on the field after the game. And I will say this defense, very businesslike, talked about doing his 111, talked about, in the press conference, if the other 10 players don't do their job, he doesn't get the interception. So said he hadn't had an interception since his junior year in high school before today. So, just really good job by the defense. They pressured Kitna enough. I think they had 3 sacks. Seth, how many sacks did they have?
3 sacks. 3 sacks today.
They could have had 3 more probably. They had him running around a little bit where they could have got him in the backfield. He kept some plays alive, but in the end, like you said, defense doesn't give up. First team defense doesn't give up anything but a field goal. And I don't know. I was trying to think of something else, other things I wanted to talk about from the game. And think about the offensive line and the job that they're doing this year. I mean, they're on the Joe Moore watch list for the best offensive line in the country. That I think they announced the semifinals later this month, the semifinalists for the Joe Moore Award. They got to be on the list. I mean, these 5 guys have started every game, all 6 games. I was talking to somebody before the game and just how in sync these guys are and how it just works out with the tackles being Finucane and Scott playing guard last year, kicking out the tackle this year, and adding Bill Katsianis and Paolo Generelli to those guard positions and having Brady Small kind of anchor that middle. Man, it's worked. On that Bryson first play, is Generelli pulling? There's a guy from the right side pulling out on the play on this touchdown, and it's excellent execution. It's man, what else can we say, really? I mean, what else can we say about the offense? You got anything, Brendan?
Well, they're definitely. I mean, as you kind of alluded to, there's definitely seems to be a groundswell on social media of a Heisman campaign for Bryson Daly, and I was wondering coming into the season if there was like a particular way that he could make his mark on the Army record book, and it seems to be the single season record for total offense, which is rushing and passing combined. Kelvin Hopkins set the record in 2018, and Daly is on pace to break it in 12 games, and he might end up playing 13 or 14.
Yeah.
In which case he would obliterate it. So, yeah, that's just one more thing I'm keeping an eye on.
Yeah, right now he has 14 touchdowns on the season. The season record for Army is 17 by Carlton Jones, Trent Steelman, and Kelvin Hopkins. So, I mean, we were talking about in the press box, Seth, if he has another game like he did against UAB against East Carolina, that could be broken. That's going to be broken at home within the next 2 games. I think that he'll score at least 4 rushing touchdowns in the next 2 games, and he'll break that record in the 8th game of the by the 8th game of the season, which is crazy. And he could have as many as the way it's going. He's definitely going to have over 20 rushing touchdowns. And man, it's just what a season so far for him. Guys, if you have any comments or questions for us, please send them our way. We got Beat 'em. Brendan, this is not you in another using another account, is it?
No.
Comment on the offensive line manhandling bigger defensive lines without relying on cut blocks, something a lot of media doesn't recognize. Has anyone talked about this yet? We talked about the offensive line. I don't know if we specifically. Go ahead, Brendan.
Well, that was part. That was probably the most important part of the grand experiment of last year's offense was the transition away from cut blocking and finding a scheme that works for them. Obviously, it's going a lot better this season than it did last season, but that's something that's been in the works for a while. And honestly, it was something Air Force jumped on, I think, pretty quickly. I mean, pretty much once they started curtailing the cut block rules a few years ago, I think Air Force just abandoned it. And now it's, now Army's finally caught up to that. And, not only that, but they have really talented kids in there to do it. And, the risk last year of putting Brady Small, a true freshman at center, I think is paying dividends this year, and hopefully will continue to for the next couple seasons.
Yeah, I confirmed today that Lucas Scott, the right tackle, is getting, some scouts are coming, NFL scouts are coming, looking his way. So good for that. Beat 'em, we appreciate your comment. Thanks a lot, guys.
I think.
Go ahead, sir.
I think it comes down to the consistency of the offensive line not to cut block, and I think they've only been called twice or 3 times this year, and the lack of fumbles or turnovers by Army. No interceptions, 1 fumble in the first or second game. Which game was it? Was it the first game? I think it was the first game. Was it?
It was Florida Atlantic.
Florida, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Udo lost a fumble.
Udo's the only one. Yeah, correct. So it's okay. I think that plays a super major role in this team's performance so far. And like Air Force, they've learned to block without cut blocking, and you can still run an option offense if you don't cut block. I wonder if the NCAA is going to come up with a different rule next year to prevent these teams to do something else, because cut blocking has been allowed for 100 years until 3 years ago. So I think those 2 things play a major role. I think the other thing that plays a major role is Noah Short taking the ball outside like he's been doing has opened up the middle for both Daly and Kanye. And come on, they got to know that Daly's going to run the ball, and they're not stopping this guy. And
Yeah.
Kanye too. Kanye didn't have as much success today as Daly did, but the two of them, they're going up the middle, and nobody's stopping them.
Well,
And
I mean, he didn't break off a big run up the middle today, but I will say Bryson Daly, his ability, when he wants to get to the outside, he gets to the outside. He finds a way to get to the outside, whether it's a long touchdown run or whether it's a 10-yard run that moves the chains. On one run, I'm like, wait, he's not going to get, yep, he got to the outside. Yep, he tiptoed the sideline. Yeah, he got 14 yards. I will say that the play calling, I was talking about this in the press box. I know there is some is it the Broyles Award that is given to the assistant coach of the year or something like that?
I think you're right.
Cody Worley better be a nominee. He better be a nominee.
Yeah.
What this guy has
agree.
done for the offense, I mean, it's night and day. It's night and day. And this guy is one step ahead of the defense. We saw a couple things that were a little bit different today. We saw an inside handoff to Noah Short on the inside. We haven't seen that yet.
I clocked that. Yeah.
There was one other thing that we saw today that I got to go back and watch the tape. I'm like, wait, this is new. Okay, give the defense some more to think about, and then you lull them to sleep, and then you throw that 50-yard pass from Daly to Reynolds was the perfect time to call that play. Was the perfect time. It's excellent play calling. It's excellent execution, and I keep on saying the same thing with Cody Worley. It's incredible what this offense can do, and to think that Noah Short didn't have to do much today. I think he had 37 yards, 3 carries. If I'm mistaken, I haven't studied the stat sheet.
No, he didn't have a lot. I got it right here.
He didn't have to.
He had
they won
42 yards and no catches today. 42 yards running.
Let's see really quick. Let's get to some comments here. Beatum saying, speaking of Noah Short, how dangerous is his offense become when Robinson is the other ring? Short, Robinson, Udo, and Daly is a nightmare for defenses. Yeah. Tyrell Robinson, I thought maybe today would be the day for him to make his return. Not yet. Coach said during his press conference on Tuesday that it's just waiting for basically the trainers and doctor's approval. He's that close to playing. Maybe we see him against East Carolina, but I will say this with Tyrell Robinson, no matter what his impact is on the offense, I don't know if he's going to be what he was. He's just going to come back and be an instant impact guy. He will make a difference in the punt return and kick return game. He will. Because punt returns is still a little shaky, right? With catching the football, he will help out there. And hopefully he can provide another weapon. Right now, Miles Stewart is doing a good job of blocking. That's all they're really asking him to do is block as that other slot back. He's doing a good job. And I will say Tyrell Robinson, saw him before the game. He's very involved. He was warming up with Noah Short, throwing them passes. When the kick returners were in a group with Darrell Dixon, when they come out and do their pregame, he was there, just being that extra support there. So I can't wait for him to get back on the field. I hope it's soon, and we'll see what impact he can make. We just have NEC Blitz. Is that the Northeast Conference Blitz, Seth? Congratulations, Black Knights. So, appreciate it. I'm trying to think of what else I want to talk about. I think we talked about the defense. We talked about special teams.
Continuing to talk about Worley. I mean, I can't remember the last time we saw so many just different formations in a single game. And I think it's I think a lot of it is just him having a great feel as a play caller, but I think it's also what they can do now. I forget where I saw this. I don't remember if it was on Twitter or what, but the thing in college coaching and even pro coaching is, the coaches are so limited with how much time that they can physically spend with the players, but they can essentially give them as much homework as they want to. Mm-hmm. And these kids want the homework, and not to I just don't know if that was an avenue before in running the offense. And I think that has that is paying dividends as well, where these kids are like, yeah, like give us more complexity to the offense. And the thing, but really to me, the key, a lot of people are like, oh, it's the option offense, so the key word is deception. To me, it's a different D word, which is discipline. It's the discipline to be able to run, 9-10 play drives and not, take a bad penalty or take a bad loss. I mean, it happens occasionally. It happens to every team. It's going to happen to Army every once in a while, but just the consistent discipline to keep matriculating the ball down the field, as Hank Stram used to say. It's just like it's incredible to see this season. And yes, I do think Worley should be up for the Broyles Award.
You know what was cool to see again? Kanye Udo bounced another run outside. It wasn't there on the inside. He bounced it to the outside, and he was able to score. The speed that he had, I think that some Twitter account had him at, and Cody Worley even said this during his media availability. They had him at 21 miles an hour down the sideline on that on one of the runs last week against Tulsa. I mean, Coach Monken was saying, "Hey, we weren't sure. We weren't sure. We were waiting to see that out of Kanye." And now, man, when you have whatever, it's a single back, full back, B back, whatever you want to call his position. When you have a guy that can break out runs like that and totally like outrun defenders, that's a pretty nice weapon to have to go along with Bryson Daly, Noah Short, and they in this passing game, even if they complete 3 passes, it's 102 yards today, right? It's 102 yards today. So they're deep passes. It was good to see Casey Reynolds with a couple. Cam Shore had a sideline catch there. They could have had a couple more, and I'm sure they're going to work on it. I'm sure that Casey Reynolds and Bryson Daly said that, they missed the deep ball where he was open, that he was running a little bit more open than a touchdown pass. I would remember from watching from the press box, Casey's running back to the huddle, and Bryson Daly's patting his chest like that one's on me. It's accountability. That's the leader right there. I mean, that's I don't know.
We've seen a lot of that. We've seen a lot of leadership here, all across the board, from the captains and from the seniors and from some of the better players who aren't seniors. You see it across the board, and this is something we haven't seen, in my opinion, in the last couple of years. It's always been there. This is just more of it, and it plays off winning too. Winning makes everybody happy, and so it goes hand in hand. What comes first, winning or leadership? It kind of goes hand in hand.
Well, I do think leadership was there last year, no matter what, because when you're 2-6 and you finish the season at 6-6, that's a lot about your team. That's a lot about the leaders on your team. Not their problem that they were in the wrong offense last year. Not their problem. And I just look at it this as that coming into the season, I thought, okay, they lost a lot of players from last year, especially on defense. So I'm saying, okay, who are the guys? Like, who are the leaders? Who are these players? And, sometimes you forget about guys that, not forget, but like a guy like David Crossan, a tight end, right? Who was the number 2 tight end behind Josh Lingenfelter for a while. And I see David Crossan finishing a block on one of Bryson Daly's touchdowns near the goal line. He's right there with a guy, blocking the guy up so Bryson can walk in the end zone. The outside blocking on one run by Bryson, by Liam Fortner, blocking until the end. You're seeing, Seth, I noted in the press box, you're seeing these Army receivers, tight ends, slot backs, blocking these guys out of bounds and keep playing to the whistle. And then you see 2 UAB players not flying, but they're pushed as far back into the Army sidelines as they can. And there's 2 Army guys standing up, running back to the huddle. I mean, it's just like these guys are playing maybe I'm getting a little. These guys are playing their tails off on every play. And I know that's a sign of Army football, but this is extreme to the extreme. And that's
also a 6-0 team. It's also a 6-0 team, or 5-0 going into today, feeling good about themselves. So it's Army football.
I don't think that.
I do. I think I think winning makes people try harder. They're 6-0. They have something to prove. Like Bryson said, after FAU down in Florida in the 100-degree heat, we're here to prove something. We're prove that we belong, and I think that mentality has taken over the whole team, and that's what they're still thinking. They want to show that they're one of the better teams. They want to win. They want to show what they're one of the better teams in the AAC, and they're showing it this year. That's for sure.
We're halfway through the season, man. I don't know.
We're 5-0 in the league.
They're not showing they're playing like they're the better team in the AAC, in my opinion. Brendan, any other game thoughts, so to speak? Anything else you'd like to add from what you observed today?
I will say, and this is such an old man take, but I love the fact that Army doesn't do any of this no huddle check with me stuff. It's old school. They huddle up before every play, and then they go out and execute. I don't know. It just warms my heart because when that stuff started to come into college football in I don't know. I guess it was the mid 2000s. It was just the chic thing of run up to the line. It's now look to the sideline. Now do this. I don't know. It always drove me crazy. Even in seasons when Army did it. So just a little thing.
I want to mention this, and it has nothing to do with the game necessarily. But when I was going back to the press box before the game, I ran across Terry Baggett, former Army running back, and Terry Baggett and a bunch of former Army players were in attendance today. They were here for memorializing or remembering their teammate Richard Glover, who was a nose guard on a bunch of Army teams. A really, really great guy, really great player, undersized guy that gave it everything he had. They were celebrating his life. Richard passed away a few years ago, but I got a chance to talk to Terry Baggett just for a few seconds. But it was good to see former Army players back at West Point. Mike Ugeni was also at the game. From that era of Army football. So I just wanted to throw that out. I mean, Terry Baggett still holds the single season rushing yards in a game versus Eastern Michigan, over 300 that one time, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He broke the record that was set in the first game I went to.
Yeah, and great thing about Terry Baggett, I will always bring this up every time I bring up Terry Baggett's name. He was on a really good basketball team out of Chicago when he was in high school. And he got to guard Anthony Davis, now of the Lakers, before Anthony Davis had his growth spurt. And he played against Anthony Davis in high school. So pretty cool. I always bring it up. I don't know why. Just dropping knowledge. I don't know why. I just it always comes to my mind. Now let's talk about Army and the polls real quick. They were just outside the polls the last 2 weeks in the AP and the coaches poll. Navy was ahead of them in one poll with points, and I think Army was ahead in another. Navy was idle this week. Army goes to 6-0. Seth, you were doing a little watching. You have any insight on this?
I don't think a lot of teams lost today. The teams in the 20 to 25 range. Pitt. We thought Pitt might lose to California. They didn't. I think Missouri won today or didn't play today.
Won. Yeah, they blew out UMass.
Yeah,
they blew out UMass.
So UMass. Okay. So I don't see Army jumping up into the 25 this week because they kind of stick to a formula that you have to lose for somebody to get ahead of you unless it's something crazy. I just don't see it happening. But they're right there. And to your point, a victory against East Carolina next week puts them at 7-0, and you have to figure they're going to get in then if they can do that. But having said that, you got Navy right there too. Navy plays, I don't know, I forget who they play. I think maybe South Florida next week. And,
maybe Charlotte. I think they play Charlotte.
Charlotte's a decent team. They're 2-2 in the league. So who knows what happens there? And I think it's away, actually, come to think of it. So anyway, but I don't see them jumping into the top 25 this week, based on the fact that those teams, maybe 18 to 25 are not losing. You need that to happen.
We'll see. Couple quick things that we forgot. I might have forgot to talk about. Army still never trailed this season. They jumped out to a 7-0 lead, never trailed.
Yep.
Army also scored a touchdown on their first drive of the game. 6 straight games they've done that. 6-0. No other team has done that in the country. So I just wanted to get to that. SMU was, I think, 25 in one poll, and they were idle 2 this week. So who knows how it shakes out. Hopefully more people are keeping an eye on this team. Again, the competition hasn't been the greatest. Probably a combined like 7 wins out of the 6 teams. I'm making it up, but actually, Lehigh has 3 wins. So the FBS wins are probably like 6 or 7 total wins right now. What was Florida Atlantic doing? They were playing North Texas and they were winning that one.
Well, I keep looking at the scoreboard right now as we're talking, and right now Florida Atlantic is leading by 3, but North Texas has the ball. It's not updating, but 2 minutes left. It's been 2 minutes for about 5 minutes now, and Rice was beating UTSA. Now they're losing 27-23. Rice has the ball with time winding down. A minute left. So minute 56 left in the North Texas FAU game. Going into today's action, the teams Army players were 6-16 going into this. Yeah, and then we have Rice. Assuming Rice loses, which I think they will, they still have the ball at 39-yard line. FAU looks like they might hold on. So
that's a high scoring game. FAU or North Texas. Well, North Texas could put up points, so.
Yeah,
that could turn into an old-fashioned shootout in November for Army. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's a game at FAU too.
Yeah, I've always ever since they published the schedule, I've always considered that North Texas game to be probably the most dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, and that's gonna determine maybe whether they play in the AAC championship game or not, right? I mean, they're gonna beat East Carolina. I mean, they just are, and then they're gonna. They're already 5-0 in the conference. There's only 3 more conference games left. There's East Carolina.
I don't think anybody else in the conference has played more than 3 conference games.
Correct.
So it puts a lot of pressure on the rest of the league to try to just keep up.
Yeah, they're set.
Well, that's actually true, Brandon. Nobody else has played. Army's played 5 conference games, and everybody else is at 3 or less. So after next week, it'll be 6 conference games. If they win next week, I think if they split with UTSA and North Texas, they'll get into the conference championship game. Now, we don't want them to lose either game, but if they beat East Carolina, they win 2 out of 3. I think they will make the conference championship game based on tiebreakers. The fact that everybody else is kind of, with the exception of Tulane, everybody else is kind of beating up on each other, and Navy, of course. They're kind of beating up on each other. So
yeah, you're right. There's common opponents there. Like Navy still has to play Tulane. Tulane has. It's interesting. Army has the easiest path to the AAC championship game. I think we can all admit that after a 5-0 start and 3 games left. We'll see what happens there. Well, I think we're just about, guys. If you have any other questions or comments, you want to get them up. We're going to wrap this up soon. I'm trying to think of anything else. Have we talked enough Bryson Daly and Heisman, or have we not?
We can talk all we want. Somebody in national press has to start talking about him so people understand who he is. Because right now, there's votes all across the country. It's done by region, and each region gets a certain amount of votes. And I'm sure the Northeast people know what Bryson Daly is doing, but I'm not so sure the people up in the Pacific Northwest or the upper Midwest know his name at this point, the people who vote. And there's a couple of good candidates out there. The kid from Boise State is supposed to be great, and there's a kid at is it LSU or Georgia, one of those schools, one of the SEC schools.
I wouldn't put
supposed to be great.
I would go with, I was spitballing last week, and I was wrong. I missed Travis Hunter. My fault. Travis Hunter, Colorado. Cam Ward, Miami quarterback. But did they lose? Miami lost, or
no? Miami beat Cal at the last second last week.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so he's still alive, and I don't think Milroe from Alabama. No, I don't care if you're from Alabama. No, you lost to Vanderbilt. You barely beat South Carolina. No. And then you got Horvath of Navy, and you got Daly in the conversation, in my opinion. I don't know. That's that. Who was looking good today, but I do not know. It's a tight game. Dylan Gabriel of Oregon. I mean, he's a guy who originally committed to Army, Dylan Gabriel, and Ohio State and Oregon are going at it. I saw 31-29 with like under 3 minutes left. So I don't know, just some Heisman talk. I think that, it's also, I'm going to say this and it might get me in trouble, but it's also up to Army Sports Athletic Communications to get Bryson Daly out there a lot, not just in these social media posts. Not just in these social media posts and the Manning Award winner. He was on some radio show out of Baltimore maybe this week. Gotta get him out there. Gotta get him out there. Bryson's a guy who he's got a good story. He really has a good story. And more people should know about him because he's not only a great player, he's a great person, great teammate, and definitely somebody worthy of being considered for the Heisman. And I think that whether or not, I'm not saying he's going to be the Heisman Trophy winner. I'm not. But if he were to get invited to New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony, that'd be amazing. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, it would be. Sure.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing. We'll
sure.
see. The way this Army team's going, it kind of goes by him. So I mean, if they're having success and they keep rolling, he's gonna keep rolling, and it's gonna be cool to follow. It's gonna be cool to follow. I don't think I remember, funny story. My first post on the Black Knight Nation website was Hop for Heisman, Kelvin Hopkins for Heisman. It was Peyton Reeder hashtagged in the preseason. He hashtagged Kelvin Hopkins for Heisman in a post. And I just said, okay, that was our first post and they were coming off a pretty good season. And I think it was Kelvin's, their 11-win season was Kelvin's junior year. Am I right or no?
Yeah. Because he started in 2019 as well.
Yeah, so there was a little bit of buzz coming off the 11-win season. So, here's the starting quarterback coming back. But haven't heard last Army player to receive a Heisman vote is Seth. Who is it?
Last Army player to get a Heisman vote. Raleigh Stitchway in 63.
Wow. No.
I'm going to say Mike Mayweather.
Mike Mayweather. Probably Mike Mayweather, 89. Yeah.
There
I would say Mike Mayweather.
There you go, Brendan. Now you're talking. All right. So let's see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But guys, thanks for watching another edition of our Black and Nation podcast. This was the UAB recap, 44-10 win over the Blazers. Trent Dilfer and the Blazers just not putting up much against Army today. 409 yards rushing, Seth. Did I just make that up? Or
413 yards rushing.
413 yards rushing today for Army. They're going to still be the nation's leading rushing team. And probably
350 yards on average. Yeah, 350
probably still leading the
average.
Nation in passing efficiency too. Maybe we'll check that out. I joked around saying that 2-minute drill at the end of the first half kind of hurt Bryson Daly's Heisman hopes when now his stats read 3 for 7 passing for 102 yards. But I mean, it means a little bit more than that. And the stats don't always tell the story. So,
guys, a quick update. North Texas is winning now by 4 with 58 seconds left, and Rice is losing by 4 to UTSA with a minute left. I'm sorry, 9 seconds left. Rice has the ball on the Texas San Antonio 18-yard line. So we're down to 1 or 2 plays there.
We become the AAC breaking news.
So much for the strength of schedule getting a little boost this week. Jeez.
Yeah, really. There you
Not
go.
today.
We play all 4. We play all 4 schools. We just haven't played North Texas or UTSA yet. So, but FAU is losing now. Looks like they're going to lose. And Rice, again, it's not up there. 16 seconds left. 16 seconds.
Man,
left.
I was hoping FAU pulled that game out, man.
Me too.
All right. There we go. Look at that. Rice just scored a touchdown.
Rice just scored a touchdown. Yeah, Rice is winning.
Beat them. We got
29-27. They're going to win the game. That's interesting.
That's incredible. I mean, if you were to rank, we were just going to go off the air, but now we're talking real quick some AAC. If you're going to rank like Army's opponents, like the teams that they beat in the AAC, I don't know who would be number 1. I mean, they have to duke it out. Let's see. We got more here. 4 seconds remaining.
Yeah, 4 seconds left. Well, if you look at the AAC standings, UAB, Temple, Rice, Tulsa, FAU, UTSA, and East Carolina are 7 of the 8 worst teams in the league in terms of a one-loss record, overall one-loss
Yeah.
record. The best teams in the league are Memphis 5-1, North Texas looks like they're going to win 5-1, Charlotte 3-3, Tulane 4-2, playing a tough schedule, and of course Army and Navy. Army at 6-0, Navy at 5-0. So we're not playing the best teams.
We should really do a separate podcast on the old AAC. No, I'm kidding. We won't. Oregon just took the lead against Ohio State. Guys, we're going to wrap this up. Thanks so much for watching.
Go
Check
watch
out
some
our
football
coverage on Black Knight Nation. Seth's game story. I'm going to write something on Bryson Daly. We'll have our social medias packed with stuff. Brendan, thanks for joining us tonight. Good seeing you at Mikey Stadium. And Seth, we'll be back next Saturday for another AAC game against East Carolina. The Pirates come to Mikey Stadium. We're looking forward to that. Guys, have a great night, and we'll see you soon.
Beat them.
Good night, guys.